8 spine-chilling Alaskan horror tales exposed, unexplained, cursed and sinister encounters await. Emma clutched the steering wheel, dark trees looming in the headlights like skeletal fingers. The Alaskan winter bit into her skin, sending chills that penetrated deeper than the cold. Long shadows twisted through the desolate streets of her once bustling town. It had become a ghost town in so many ways, empty storefronts and lonely homes whispering stories of abandonment. That night, a swirling mist enveloped the gas station where she worked late hours, and as she locked the doors behind her, a flicker of lights beyond the trees caught her eye. A cluster of shimmering glows danced just out of reach, as if someone had thrown a handful of stars into the black abyss. Emma's heart raced. Dismissing the unsettling draw, she turned away, shaking off hesitation like a dog shakes off water. Yet, as she drove home, the whispers of the wind twisted around her, curling through the cracks of her windshield, making her skin crawl. It was as if ghosts were beckoning, and firelight flickered just on the edge of her sight. "Mom! Can we go explore where those lights come from?" Dylan's innocent voice rang through her tired mind as she parked, but she dismissed it. It was just a child's curiosity, she reassured herself. But something gnawed at her gut, dragging worry deeper every time. Days slipped by with unassuming terror. Each night, the glow brightened, the whispers grew louder, until the quaint, isolated town exhaled an uneasy stress, suspicion staining every glance exchanged. Then came that fateful evening when Dylan vanished. Panic clawed up Emma's insides as real fear settled in her bones. She felt the walls of that darkened town close in around her, the sheriff more concerned with gossip than the search for her boy. Strangers hushed whispers, eyes darting like startled deer, never meeting hers. The isolation did not just lie in the frigid wilds outside, it was buried deeply in her neighbors, a gnarled legacy of distrust. As she stumbled upon fragmented tales from old folks, half-remembered folklore seeped into her consciousness, a spirit lurking, demanding love to consume. Could the chilling light be tied to her son's disappearance? Each eerie night, she was pulled closer to those woods, where secrets echoed through every rustle of leaves and broken branches. Before we continue, I need to tell you something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to their system and many people are missing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and select all notifications so you don't miss future videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. Each night grew tighter, her fear tangled as she ventured deeper into the spine of the woods, each step sending a tremor through her body. And there, just before the darkness swallowed her whole, she discovered them, the outlines of figures, shadows weaving through the trees. The spirits stood revealed, but instead of answers, they offered despair, echoes of joy and laughter morphing into derisive cackles that gnawed at her sanity. A child's laughter rang through the air, sickeningly sweet, but it was not Dylan's. With every flicker of lights, the depths of despair echoed louder. Could she trust anyone? Or would the very people she sought for safety plunge her into deeper darkness? Heart racing, she realized she had to confront the neighbor, the respected elder holding the town's history close to his chest. But could she withstand the horror awaiting her? Emma's heart shuddered, as chills gripped her spine. A decision loomed over her like the trees, and whispers twisted around her as shadows called out once again, tangled with secrets long buried. Could she face the reality that waited just beyond the edge of the town, like a predator lying in wait? Emma staggered back, the weight of dread pressing against her lungs. She needed to gather her courage. But fear clawed at her, more tangible than the biting cold wrapping around her like a vice. Were the figures still there, mocking her from the darkness? What were they? They seemed to slip through her fingers like smoke, slipping away before she could grasp the truth. With shaking hands, she gripped the flashlight, sending beams of light into the wild shadows. The trees shuddered silently in reply. Emma's breath quickened, each inhalation full of icy panic. There was that laughter again, high-pitched and haunting, echoing through the branches. It didn't belong to her son. Was it drawing her closer, or leading her into a trap? Dylan! She called out, her voice cracking under the weight of terror. The sound of her own words stabbed into her heart. Each syllable disappeared into the void, unanswered. Resigned yet determined, she trudged forward, the crunch of snow echoing eerily around her. Maybe the old neighbor knew something. Mr. Collins had lived through the town's whispers. He'd seen the shadows dart across the streets at least, that's what she hoped. There had to be answers in that dilapidated house at the end of the street, the last place where anyone had reported seeing a flicker of light. Her heart thundered in her ears as she approached, the eerie glow of her flashlight barely piercing the gloom. With each step she took, the air grew heavy with portent, as if the darkness itself wished to swallow her whole. The door creaked ominously when she knocked, the sound a dissonant echo of her own unease. "Mr. Collins?" She ventured, her voice trembling. Silence answered her, thick and palpable, until at last the door creaked open. There stood Mr. Collins, his eyes clouded with a distant familiarity, his lips pursed like he knew more than he dared say. "Emma," he breathed, a hint of recognition sparking in his aging eyes. "You shouldn't be here." "Dylan is missing," she blurted out, desperate and raw. "I need your help. Please." His gaze faltered, flickering over her shoulder, eyes darting as though looking for something unseen. "You've seen the lights, haven't you?" There was a tremor in his voice, caution lacing his words. "The lights, they come every night." Emma felt the hairs on the back of her neck prickle. "What do you know about them?" Mr. Collins inhaled sharply, the haunted look in his eyes so deep that she felt like he was staring into a void. "There are stories, Emma. Old tales of a time when children went missing under mysterious circumstances. They linger waiting in the woods for something they lost." "Lost?" Emma's heart sank further. "My son isn't lost. He's taken." A flicker of movement caught her eye. Shadows danced just outside the porch, elongated shapes twisting in and out of sight, too quick to grasp. Panic surged within her, the air thickening around them like a shroud. "Get inside," Mr. Collins hissed, pulling her into the safety of his dimly lit home. "You don't understand what calls to those lights." The door slammed shut behind them, but the darkness outside felt alive, restless, scraping against the walls like fingernails on a coffin. There was an urgency in Mr. Collins as he motioned her to sit. "They want your son or something he carries that makes him special." His voice dropped low, barely above a whisper. "And they will not stop until they get it." Emma's hands trembled in her lap as she pieced the revelation together. The legend, the lights, the stories, the horrors surrounding her town were so much deeper and darker than she'd ever imagined. "What do I do?" She breathed, despair washing over her like frost covering the earth, but before Mr. Collins could respond, a loud noise shattered the silence. The windows rattled, as if something outside had crashed against them, something big. The shadows beyond blurred and surged forward. A rhythmic thud, like distant war drums, resonated through the walls. Something was coming for her, something hungry. Emma stood frozen, her heart pounding a warning of dread, and then, as the lights flickered on outside, a bone-chilling thought invaded her mind. Could the truth she sought be the very darkness that surrounded her? The door rattled violently, and the laughter now shrill and more knowing echoed from within the walls. Desperation hung heavy as she faced Mr. Collins, her voice shaky but determined. "Tell me what we need to do." But the words died on her lips as the reality began to dawn. What if they weren't alone at all? A piercing shriek reverberated through the house, threatening to tear them apart. And then, just as suddenly, silence fell again. But what waited beyond the door? A decision had to be made, and time was running out. What deep secrets would the night reveal, and would she dare to find out? A sudden crash shattered the stillness, sending Emma's heart into a wild race. Fractured glass fell like rain from the window. Something had hurled itself against their fragile barrier, something eager to breach their sanctuary. Mr. Collins muttered a low curse, moving to the window, the pallor of his face washed with dread. "It started," he whispered, his eyes wide with fear and recognition of the horrors lying just outside. Emma's grip tightened around her flashlight. "What's out there?" She peered past him, but the darkness refused to show its secrets. Seconds felt like hours as the silence afterward deepened, making her wonder if she was hearing the caged rhythm of her own pulse or something else lurking in the night. "Things that were never meant to be seen," Mr. Collins replied, backing away from the window and forcing the door shut tightly. "They feed off fear, and they know we're here." "What are you talking about?" Panic twisted in Emma's gut. "What do they want?" His mouth opened, but another crash left him speechless. The door rattled violently, and a muffled voice echoed from the other side, slithering under her skin like 1,000 insects. "Dylan." She took a shaky step back. That's my son." The icy grip of despair clawed at her chest as she dared to hope. Could it truly be him? "No. Do not open that door." Mr. Collins's words were urgent, laced with an edge of desperation. "It's not your son. It's something that mimics him. A trick." But the voice outside grew louder, more insistent, mingling with the laughter again, a nightmare lullaby that tinged the air with emotions Emma wished to flee from. "Mom! Help me! Dylan!" Emma cried, her heart shattering as she reached for the door, every fiber of her being drawn to the sound. The warm memories of her son flooded her mind, the way he laughed, his spirit, his life. "I'm coming." She felt Mr. Collins's hand grip her arm, pulling her back with a strength born of fear. "You have to let him go. They will take you too." His eyes pleaded with her, gray and haunted, the shadows of the past surfacing in his gaze. "Once they have you, the lights will claim your soul." The echoes of her son's voice bleated at her, and she could almost see him, lost somewhere in that thick blackness. Panic surged, threatening to explode from her chest. "What do I do? What do I do?" Her mind raced as desperation twisted with terror. "This won't end well," Collins hissed, fear breaking through the stoic facade he had worn. "We need to find a way to protect ourselves. We must trap it." "Trap it?" Emma's mind struggled to keep up. "How?" But before Collins could answer, the door shook violently again, a loud thump reverberating as if something heavy had thrown itself against it. The walls of the old house shivered, dust cascading from the ceiling like fallen snowflakes. "Find the candles," Mr. Collins shouted, urgency spilling from him like a tidal wave. "They will keep the darkness at bay," but an ear-splitting crack interrupted him as the door splintered, twisting inward. Emma gasped as light poured into the room, throwing shadows into sharp relief. The figure beyond was silhouetted against the glow, a ghastly form, shifting and twitching as it stepped maliciously into their world. It looked like Dylan, but with angles that twisted and contorted. With a glance over her shoulder, she saw panic mirrored in Mr. Collins's eyes. "No!" he screamed, moving to grab a wooden chair to use as a weapon. He turned just as the creature lunged, and Emma screamed. In that frantic moment, horror blurred lines between reality and nightmare, the true nature of their adversary clear at last. "Run!" Mr. Collins roared, propelling her toward the back of the house. As they stumbled through the trembling shadows, a whisper echoed back to her, chilling her to the bone, "You can't escape, I'm here forever." Emma dared not look back, but dread unfurled in her chest. Would light save her, or was it a fool's hope? There was no time to think. They needed an escape, but the reality of what loomed behind them was seeping into her lungs, overwhelming and despairing. How could she fight a darkness that echoed her very soul's call? With earth-shattering laughter surrounding them, they barreled deeper into the house, seeking whatever desperate refuge they could find. Emma's mind locked onto a thought: there was no turning back now. But as they reached the hall, the sinister darkness began to weave through the cracks, inching closer, ready to consume everything. What other horrors awaited them in the depths of that cursed house? Would they find a way to drive the shadows away or become just another whisper in the night? Emma and Mr. Collins plunged into the darkness, hearts pounding in sync with the monstrous laughter that reverberated through the air. The shadows pulsed around them, a living entity hungry for their despair. Emma pulled at the fabric of her sanity, a thin thread that threatened to snap. "Where do we go?" she gasped, trying to keep her voice steady. "Back room." Mr. Collins grunted through clenched teeth, dragging Emma down the narrow hallway that felt infinitely longer than it was. The walls seemed to close in, whispers curling around them like smoke. They reached the door to the back room, but the jarring sound of shattering glass erupted again, this time from a window nearby. Metal splintered, as if a creature had fought its way into the very bones of the house. Emma wanted to scream but swallowed her voice, both fear and instinct warning her to stay silent. "Lock it!" Collins barked as he hurriedly tried to block the door with the chair. Emma's trembling hands fumbled with the lock, her mind racing. "Is it really him?" she whispered, the question haunting her. Could it be Dylan? He sounded just like him. No. Don't give in. That thing can lie. Collins' eyes darted around the room. Shadows slithered through the corners like snakes, and the edges of reality felt jagged. "Focus. Candles, where are the candles?" Emma's eyes scanned the chaotic mess of the room. Dust-covered furniture formed islands in a sea of darkness. Finally, they landed on a flickering light on a corner shelf. An old candelabrum. "There." She pointed, relief flooding her at the sight. Collins rushed toward it. The flickers of the flame danced as if mocking their desperation. They needed more light, much more light. As Collins reached for the candelabrum, a chilling echo threaded through the air again, a malevolent voice whispering, "Mommy." Emma staggered back, error seeping into her bones. She clutched the edge of a table, breath short and sharp. "No. It can't be. Dylan. Shut it out." Collins yelled, lighting the candles one by one, but the creature's voice twisted into a mocking laugh. "I'm waiting, just open the door." A heavy silence thickened around them, pregnant with dread. The flames flickered, and a gust of wind swept through the room, extinguishing the newly lit candles in an instant. Darkness flooded back, a suffocating blanket that pressed against their chests. "Light it again," Emma cried, panic rising. Her heart thudded in her throat, pounding for release as she felt the shadows reaching for her. Collins fumbled with the match, curse words tumbling from his lips as he struck it hard against the surface. "Why won't you listen?" he shouted into the void. "You can't have us." As the match flared to life, the creature's silhouette emerged, lurking just outside the door. It had Dylan's face, twisted and wrong, with eyes that glowed like dying embers. "Open the door, Mommy, come play with me." The sorrowful tone cut through Emma's resolve. She shook her head, tears streaming down her cheeks. "This isn't my son." The words clawed their way out as she fought back the surge of instinct that wanted her to rush forward. "It's just waiting for your fear," Collins yelled, but Emma saw something in the monster's eyes, a desperate reflection of her own torment. With all the strength left in her, she yelled back, "You're not real. Dylan is gone." The shadows recoiled as if her words had forged light. The silence that followed was almost peaceful, but it didn't last. The air crackled with an ominous energy. Their moment of courage began to dissolve as the figure began to morph, features blurring in and out. "You can't escape, it's in you." The voice warped, a chorus of tormented souls merging into a single shudder of despair. The door shuddered under the weight of whatever lay beyond. The candles flickered uncertainly, shadows leaping. "Quick! We need to find the others," Collins urged, urgency tinged with dread. "Others?" Emma gasped, even as her heart sank. If darkness had found others, what hope did they have? But no sooner were the words out than they heard it, the unmistakable sound of frantic Breaths and pleading voices emerging from another part of the house. Help us. Emma's breath caught in her throat. Somebody else was trapped somewhere in this hell. Stay close. Collins commanded, their fleeting hope tethered to the uncertainty of their next choice. They could run or risk it all to save those voices. But standing still wasn't an option. The shadows were gathering, they could feel it. Could they have the courage to face their fears together, or would the darkness take them one by one? In that moment of choice, Emma could feel the creeping dread inside her tighten. The lurking presence grew more potent, shadows cloaking the corners of her mind. Would they fight the darkness or be consumed by it? As they moved towards the cries for help, one burning question loomed over them, thick with urgency. Would they reach them in time, or were they racing toward their doom? The cries echoed again, a sharp slice through the oppressive silence. They felt closer now, desperate and raw, begging for salvation. Emma exchanged a glance with Collins, a mixture of fear and determination igniting within her. Which way? She whispered, her voice trembling. The house was a labyrinth of terror, and uncertainty gnawed at her psyche like rats in the wall. Follow the sounds, Collins said, gripping her arm with a strength she didn't know he possessed. Stay quiet. As they crept forward, a chill clawed at their backs, a whispering breeze that carried the sorrow of lost souls. Every crack and creak of the house seemed amplified, a monstrous symphony mocking their every move. They moved through the narrow halls, where shadows bled from the walls, shifting and swirling around their feet. Help us. The cries surged up again, this time louder, filled with unmistakable anguish. It wasn't merely a plea, it was a summons, pulling at the strings of their hearts, weaving fear through their veins. Emma's chest tightened. It sounds like Margot, she gasped, remembering the laughter of her friend, the one who had offered her comfort only days before. But Margot was gone, swallowed by the night without a trace. Keep moving. Collins urged, tugging her forward. They approached an open door, the frame jagged and splintered, like a maw waiting to consume them. The sounds of struggle tumbled out, thick with the scent of desperation. Emma hesitated, peering into the room. The faint light of a single bulb flickered, casting grotesque shadows on the walls. She felt the shadows wrap around her ankles, pulling her back, whispering threats in her ear. Anyone there? Collins shouted, his voice trembling even as he strained to sound brave. The shadows seemed to hesitate for a moment, the air thick with tension, and then, silenced. A heartbeat stretched into an eternity as they exchanged terrified glances. Suddenly, the light flickered again, plunging the room back into darkness, wrapping them in shadow. Get back! Collins shouted, suddenly aware of the growing presence. They stumbled backward, a wave of dread washing over them. The very floor beneath them seemed to pulse, alive with malevolent energy. Mommy, I'm scared. The voice was softer now, almost fragile, but Emma recognized it, her heart shattered. Dylan? She called, but even the name felt wrong in her mouth, a bitter echo of everything she had lost. The door swung wide, revealing a figure that should not have been there. It stood in the shadows, cloaked in darkness yet unmistakable. Dylan's shape, his face obscured but his essence all too familiar. Mommy, it whispered, a twisted smile spreading across its shadowy features. I was waiting. No. You're not real. Emma screamed, clutching her head, fighting the grip of despair wrapping around her heart. You're not my son. The thing cocked its head, the smile widening until it split the darkness. But I want to play with you forever. Collins pushed Emma aside, stepping forward with fierce resolve. Get away from her. It was a futile challenge, echoing in a vacuum as if the darkness itself laughed. Dylan's figure began to shift, features warping and split, merging into a multitude of faces. A torrent of voices shrieked and laughed in unison, drowning them in agony. It was no longer just Dylan but a multitude, a haunting collective of all those who had crossed into this twisted domain. Panic surged. The darkness expanded, closing in on them. Emma could barely breathe, the air thickening with shadows. Run! Collins shouted, but the words were swallowed by the cacophony. Emma's heart raced as she grabbed Collins' arm, yanking him back. "We can't leave them. We can save them." His eyes widened in horror. "You don't understand. This isn't our fight anymore. We have to go." But the wails turned to laughter, rippling through the shadows like a storm. Emma knew they had to confront this horror, leaving would crush her spirit. "Help!" The overwhelming chorus pierced through her mind, igniting a fire within. "We have to try." With every ounce of strength, they pushed through the threshold, ready to confront the nightmare that awaited. But as they stepped further into the room, the haunting laughter wrapped around them, echoing ominously. Would they find the strength to fight back, or would darkness snatch away their last flickering hope? The answer loomed before them, twisted in the caress of shadows, raising the question: what price would they pay to uncover the truth? Emma took a step forward, heart thundering in her chest. The sounds of anguish morphed into a cacophony that twisted around her mind, each voice a reminder of her loss, her desperation. She felt as if she was being pulled into a whirlpool of sorrow, every face from the darkness an amalgamation of grief that threatened to drown her. "Emma, no." Collins gripped her arm tighter, pulling her back. His voice was a lifeline in the storm. "We can't do this. We need to find a way out." "Out? Really?" Emma's voice trembled. She refused to let the shadows consume her. "If we run, we're abandoning them. They need us. But what if we end up sharing their fate?" He hissed, desperation creeping into his tone. The dark laughter echoed, mocking them, fueling the fire in her veins. The figure of Dylan danced in her mind, the twisted smile piercing her heart. "He's not real, Emma." Collins shouted, his eyes wide and frantic. "Don't get trapped in it." A flicker of doubt danced on her resolve, but the cries surged again, pleading, filling her with a sense of purpose. "I'm going to find them," she declared, yanking her arm free and plunging deeper into the room. Collins cursed but followed, his breath ragged as they entered the epicenter of this living nightmare. The light overhead sputtered violently, casting strobe-like shadows that flashed bare glimpses of terror in the corners of the room. A disembodied hand, a shrieked face, eyes wide with horror but filled with an inexplicable darkness. "Mommy. I miss you." The voice sounded more like Dylan, a collage of the past twisted into the present. Emma felt her heart lurch. "Dylan. Where are you?" she cried out. The laughter turned into cries of despair, the multitude of shadows writhing with her words. Something flickered, a glimpse of a small hand reaching out within the choking shadows. "Dylan." Emma's voice cracked. She stumbled forward, desperate to reach that fragile, flickering hope, but the shadows lashed out, clawing at her. "Stay together," Collins shouted, panic now boiling over as the room began to spin. A cold wind rushed past them, slamming the door shut behind them. Trapped. The darkness felt alive, breathing around them, its edges razor-sharp. Emma could feel the weight of the lost souls pressing down, entreating her, perhaps accusing her for her attempts to escape. "Emma, we need to find a way out," Collins urged, his voice barely piercing through the din. He searched frantically, running his hand along the wall, feeling for a latch, a weak point, but Emma was lost in the overwhelming warmth of maternal instinct. "I can save him," she whispered, almost deliriously. "I have to try." "No," Collins hissed. "You'll lose yourself." A shadow lunged, arms reaching for her. A face twisted into a grotesque approximation of Dylan's dulcet smile shimmered momentarily before the shadows spun around it, merging into a swirling mass of anguish. Every face was a memory lost, a whisper of someone who had walked the halls before. The culmination of despair blackened the corners of her vision, and then, a shriek ripped through the air, slicing through the smoke of shadows. "Help us." It was Margot. Emma froze, the recognition stinging like ice. Her best friend's voice spiraled around her, wrapping around her heart, igniting a flicker of hope amidst the abysmal terror. The figures of Margot, Dylan, and countless others appeared and disappeared in flashes, pleading eyes, outstretched hands, and agonized expressions. Tightening her grip on Colin's hand, she felt fortified by shared terror. "We'll find them. Together." Collins breathed hard, uncertainty softening his panic. "Together," he echoed weakly, but the shadows burrowed closer, growing more oppressive. Suddenly, the walls pulsed, a heartbeat resonating through the room. Shadows surged forward, a creeping tide of despair looking to swallow them whole. "You cannot leave." A guttural whisper resonated, deep and threatening from somewhere far beyond sight. "Let go of us." Collins roared, his fear igniting in anger, slashing through the laughter like a knife. The heartbeat quickened, and the room shuddered as if alive. Emma felt it calling her deeper, beckoning her toward the very core of this terror. "What have we awakened?" Collins climbed beside her, struggling against the tide of darkness, but it pushed harder, forcing them back. Their hearts raced. Each whisper of despair wrapped tighter. Emma's lungs felt heavy. The shadows drew closer, and she could see faces, hear names, all lost in the void. "Don't look away." She screamed without thinking, forcing Collins to meet her gaze. "We can't," but before she could finish, the shadows exploded around them, engulfing them in darkness. The din surged to a crescendo, and for an instant, Emma felt herself lifted, and then, she realized, what if it was too late to save them? In the black void, a piercing light appeared, breaking through the dark chaos, revealing something unfathomable. Emma squinted against its brightness. And while hope ignited within her, she felt the chilling grip of dread take hold. What could lie behind the light? Would it be salvation or further doom? The shadows' brickwall racing toward them, and panic clawed at her every thought. They stood on the precipice of a reckoning, with an unfathomable choice ahead. Would the light lead them to freedom or drag them deeper into the abyss? The light surged, pushing the shadows back momentarily, illuminating twisted faces frozen in agony. Emma squinted, searching for answers among the chaos. Behind the brightness, hints of a familiar space flickered, a child's room, marked by the remnants of innocent stuffed animals scattered about, bright drawings lining the walls. "Dylan!" she yelled, but her voice felt swallowed whole. The light flickered, revealing a small figure slumped in a corner, shrouded in darkness. Emma, the voice, weak and tremulous, pierced through the static of despair, familiar yet fragile. Before she could process the feeling of relief, Collins tugged at her wrist, grounding her. "You can't trust it." His tone was urgent, almost desperate. He scanned the convergence of light and shadow, searching for something, anything to save them from the suffocating gloom. "Just a bit closer." She pressed through gritted teeth, her heart pounding, hope and fear roiling inside her. She ventured forward, but with every step, the brightness dimmed, like the stars being snuffed out one by one. "Emma!" The fragile voice called again, a haunting echo of familiarity weaving between clarity and confusion. "Help! Help us!" The words twisted in her gut as she saw distinct forms materializing, faces belonging to those she had lost, stretching unnaturally towards the light. They were the ones who had once held her tightly, filled her life with laughter and joy. The shadows had crafted their look into grotesque parodies of human affection. "Do you see them?" Collins pleaded. "This isn't real." But Emma's resolve faltered as she felt a tug in her heart, pulling her toward them. "Emma! You have to remember that they're trapped," Collins shouted. "They can't escape." Panic surged through his voice, bringing her back just for a moment. "Then we'll bring them back," she responded fiercely, lunging forward once more, not stopping to consider the consequences. The light flickered against the dense shadows, revealing her friend, and with it, a glimpse of freedom. Suddenly, the shadows lashed out, furious at her defiance. Tendrils of darkness coiled around her ankles, dragging her backward, trying to snuff out her will to fight. "We can't lose you too!" Collins screamed, grasping at her, his fear erupting like a live wire between them. The wall of darkness slammed down, vibrating, as if alive, trying to crush their hope. "Fight, Emma! Fight!" His voice merged with the cries of trapped souls, creating a terrible symphony of sorrow and dread. But her focus remained on that small, slumped figure. She couldn't let it be in vain. There must be a way. She cried out, desperation clawing at her throat. Collins's eyes widened as realization flashed across his face. "The drawings!" he shouted. "They're not just memories, they're the key. We have to look for something, anything that connects us to them." Emma spun toward the wall covered in drawings, smiling faces, playful scenes. Each image pulsated with the life they had led before the darkness swallowed them whole. Each stroke a testament to love, and with it, a pathway. "We have to focus," Collins urged, pulling her closer to the most vibrant piece, a colorful depiction of a joyous sea under a brilliant sun, Dylan bright in the center. "Concentrate on what you love." With a deep breath, Emma closed her eyes. She envisioned Dylan's laugh, the sound like music filling her heart. The waves crashing against the shore. "Dylan! We're coming!" Emma shouted, clarity pushing through the confusion in her heart. The moment she locked onto that happiness, something deep within the shadows began to fray. The world around them shuddered, an alarming sense of urgency weaving its way into the air. The whisperings morphed into screams around them, disallowing her thoughts to linger as darkness clawed back at her. Suddenly, the light flared bright again, almost blinding, forcing the shadows to cringe and retreat. Emma felt a sudden pull, like gravity shifting. "Hold on!" Collins yelled, his grip tightening as they rode the surge of light. But as the light beckoned them forward, she caught glimpses of faces now twisted in pain, mouths agape in silent screams. A colossal crash echoed behind them. The walls trembled violently, threatening to cave inward as the shadows raged against their escape. "Emma!" he shouted again, urgency igniting a quiet strength. "Whatever's coming, we need to face it together." What awaited them at the end of the light? Would they breach the barrier of the shadows, or was it simply a new darkness waiting to consume them? With one last look back, Emma steadied her breath, and together they hurled themselves fully into the light. They were racing toward hope or into an even more sinister abyss. What if the price of their salvation was the ultimate betrayal? The surge of light engulfed them, a strobe of brilliant warmth in the heart of encroaching void. Emma felt the pull of hope as she and Collins tumbled forward. But just as quickly, that hope began to twist into something darker. The blinding brightness faded, relinquishing them to a space thick with fog. It reeked of damp earth and something acrid, like burnt memories. Emma's pulse quickened, the frantic rhythm of her heart echoed in her ears. "Where are we?" Collins whispered, his voice barely cutting through the heavy air. The fog clung to their skin, chilling them to the bone. He stood next to her, trembling. "I don't know," Emma replied, scanning their surroundings. The shadows slithered just beyond the whirl of mist, slanting like fingers stretching to ensnare them. The quiet was deafening, thick and oppressive, as if the world held its breath, waiting for their next move. "Emma!" The voice that broke the silence was sharper than glass. It sliced through the fog like a blade. It was her mother's voice. "Mom?" she called, instinctively stepping forward, then catching herself as Collins gripped her arm. "You have to think, Emma. It's not real," he warned, his eyes wide, mirroring the dread brewing in her chest. But the yearning to believe weighed heavy on her heart. For so long, she'd craved assurance from the lives lost, the warmth of a family now overshadowed by this incessant darkness. She could almost see her mother, a comforting figure reaching out, hands open in love. "Just listen," Collins urged, pushing back against the tide of swirling fog. "We have to get out of here. If we don't, Emma shouted, struggling against Collins' grasp. "I can help her. I can help all of them." As the fog lifted momentarily, the figures crept forward. Faces began to emerge, stepping out of the haze, familiar yet grotesquely deformed. Each twisted smile widened in a mockery of joy, eyes vacant yet pleading, desperately reaching out for what had been stolen from them. Emma felt bile rise in her throat as echoes of forgotten laughter morphed into cries of desperation. Look at them. They're not free. Collins fought to keep her steady, his voice straining under the weight of fear. Don't let them pull you back. She wavered, stuck between love and the sinister grip of something darker. The warmth of her mother felt distant, even as she nearly grasped it. It's a trap. Collins shouted again, his voice cracking. The figures were growing closer, stretching towards her as if sharing the very air. Emma felt cold wisps curl around her ankles, an invitation she desperately yearned to resist. In a panic, she squeezed her eyes shut, taking in deep breaths to ground herself. She remembered the sound of the waves, Dylan's laughter, a time before the darkness descended. Then she heard it, the faint sound of her mother's soothing voice weaving through that cacophony of despair, beckoning her. Mom, I remember. Suddenly, she felt Collins' grip slip. A clawing fear twisted in her gut as she turned. He was backing away, eyes transfixed on something beyond the fog, hands raised defensively. No. Collins. But it was too late. The fog swelled around him, drowning his voice, and within moments, he was gone. Emma spun, fear tightening the grip on her heart, the familiar faces now morphing into malicious grins. They were coming for her, drawn by her vulnerability. Help me! She screamed, but the fog answered her with a bone-chilling silence. The shadows coalesced, ready to consume her entirely. Just then, a piercing light burst through the clouds around her. It sent the shadows reeling, blinding her as she shielded her eyes. She felt the pressure of the fog around her give way. But that brightness, so deceivingly hopeful, flickered above her. What emerged in the blinding light? Would it beckon salvation, or was it a new horror waiting to ensnare her soul? Emma's heart raced as she stumbled backward, caught between two worlds, the familiar warmth reaching for her and the unearthly void threatening to swallow her whole. What would she choose when the light flickered again? Struggling against the shadows? And with Collins lost, could she face the truth alone? Emma's breath caught in her throat as the light enveloped her. It pulsed like a heartbeat, thrumming against her skin, offering the promise of freedom yet filling her with dread. Is this you? She half whispered, half screamed, staring into the radiant glow. Was this the salvation she had yearned for? Or a sinister trap set by the darkness that consumed everything around her? With a surge of courage, she edged closer, the light bathing her in warmth, but the closer she got, the more she felt the chill creeping back in. The fog hissed around her like a snake, luring her away from the brightness. A twisted scream echoed through the mist, haunting and hollow, and Emma stumbled. It inked closer, the shadows morphing into grotesque shapes, arms outstretched as they reached for her. Faces she recognized, contorted with agony and despair, twisted in a mockery of a family gathering. Emma! They wailed in a chorus of tortured voices. We've missed you. No! She choked, shaking her head, tears streaming down her face. You're not real. But her heart wanted to believe, wanted to feel the safety of their embrace again. The light flickered overhead, illuminating a path that led deeper into the fog. The shadows lingered just outside its glow, whispering and taunting her with secrets of what they knew. What did you do to Collins? She shouted, anger mixing with fear as the fog curled closer, sneaking into her lungs. You can't escape the truth, Emma, the shadows hissed. It's all around you. Accept us. Her mind raced, every memory entwined with the faces that gazed back at her. The love she had, was it worth this torment? Could she really stand firm against the growing swell of despair? Then, behind her, the light intensified, casting a brilliant silhouette across the ground. She turned quickly, caught off guard by its intensity. It revealed a shape, tall and fierce, standing as a guardian of the flickering glow. "Leave her alone." The figure thundered, a voice resonating with authority that broke through the grim atmosphere enveloping her. "Who are you?" Emma gasped, clutching her sides as panic burrowed deeper. The specters hissed in protest, receding slightly from the figure but still looming, still hungry. But she felt a shift within her, a flicker of hope igniting against the stifling dread. The figure stepped closer, revealing a face partially illuminated by the light. It was someone she knew, yet someone she had never thought would come to her aid. "Jake?" she whispered, tilting her head in disbelief. "I've been searching for you, Emma. We need to move." He reached for her, and the pulling warmth of his presence felt ancient and grounding, unlike the cold clutches of the specters inching near. But as she took a hesitant step forward, the shadow figures lunged, the fog screeching with fury. "You can't abandon us. You belong with us, not with him." "No. You're not my family," Emma cried, rallying against their claims. The shadows screamed, their cries forming a storm that roared through the mist. Jake's grip tightened around her, the light from his form pushing back the encroaching darkness. "Trust me, Emma. I won't let them take you." Yet still, she felt the familiar pull, the siren song of her lost loved ones drawing her in. The darkness tightened, wrapping around her, leaving only the tiniest sliver of light at her back. In that moment, she had to decide. Would she choose the light, the unknown with Jake, or succumb to the darkness beckoning her home? As the shadow figures advanced, their voices intertwined in a nightmarish symphony, she felt the weight of a world slipping beneath her feet. "Choose now," Jake shouted, panic rising in his voice as the fog writhed dangerously close. The looming specters closed in, reaching and clawing, their eyes burning with a dark intensity. What awaited her in the light? Would choosing it mean leaving everything behind forever? Emma's heart raced as she pulled against the grip of shadows, struggling to find her voice amid the crescendo of terror. "Help me!" she screamed, more to herself than to anyone else, the question ringing in her mind, could she truly step towards the light, knowing what may lie ahead? Emma's heart raced, caught in a cyclone of fear and hope. The shadows pressed in, their icy fingers reaching, but the warmth of Jake's words cut through the murky fog. "You have to make your choice, Emma," he urged, his voice a beacon in the chaos. She looked back at the haunting faces, now contorted into desperate wails, their vacant eyes reflecting an anguish that she knew all too well. I can't leave you," she cried, the sorrow tearing through her like a jagged knife. But a flicker of doubt ignited in her mind. Was it truly love that compelled her, or was it guilt? She felt their despair tugging at her, luring her deeper. "Emma," Jake said, stepping closer, his presence solid, firm ground in a storm of shadows. "Look at what they are. They want your fear. Your pain. Choose the light. It's your only chance." She felt the heat of Jake's urgency, the protective instinct rippling through the air. And in that moment, clarity pierced through the haze. She wasn't abandoning them, she was reclaiming herself. "I won't let you take me," she yelled, feeling the power rush within. The specters jolted back, their howls twisting into a cacophony of fury. She turned, looking into the brightness emanating from Jake, surrendering to its pull. "I choose life," Emma cried with fierce conviction, moving toward the light. A surge of energy engulfed her, wrapping her in warmth as the shadows darted toward her, desperate to reclaim their hold. But the light enveloped her, pushing them back as if they were mere whispers trying to snuff out a roaring fire. "Together!" Jake shouted, his grip tightening, anchoring her resolve. They rushed forward, weaving through the blinding light, feeling the shadows swirling in furious chaos behind them. Then, almost as if the universe exhaled, they burst through the veil of darkness, and suddenly, they were outside, breathless and panting. The night sky twinkled above, fresh and clear, untouched by the horrors lurking within the house. It was a stark contrast to the suffocating atmosphere they had escaped. Emma felt the weight of despair lift, like a rock crumbling into sand. She turned to Jake, her eyes wide with disbelief. "We did it. We're free." But Jake's face shifted, a look of profound concern etched across his features. A murmur carried in the night air, soft yet sinister, tugging at Emma's pulse again. "It's not over," he warned, scanning the stars like a hawk on the lookout for danger. "They won. Rest. The shadows will follow." She felt a shiver slither down her spine but resolutely shook her head. "I won't let them take anyone else. I'll find a way to free those who are trapped." Their voices, Margot's and Dylan's, still echoed in her heart. The resolve blossomed in her chest like a flame of hope. As dawn broke on the horizon, the first light illuminating the path ahead, Emma took a deep breath. "Let us go back," she declared, determination painting her words with bold strokes. "We'll face whatever we have to." Jake nodded, steeling himself. "We'll need allies. We're not alone in this fight." They walked forward, hearts pounding, each step a promise to confront not just the shadows, but their own fears. As they drew near the town, old stories of lost children and flickering lights whispered through Emma's mind, mingling with thoughts of those they had loved. It was in that moment she understood that true strength came from facing the darkness, from illuminating the shadows with love. Together, they would break the curse. "Are you ready?" Jake asked, drawing her close. "Always," she replied, her voice steady and strong, tracing her heart with the memories of Dylan's laughter. With a deep breath, they stepped into the remnants of the cursed house, the light of dawn spilling behind them, a shield against the gathering doom. This was their moment, a chance to rewrite the narratives that had bound them for too long. As they crossed the threshold, Emma felt the shadows writhe, but fear transformed into fierce defiance. She breathed deep, summoning her strength, ready to rescue those lost within the darkness, for it was time to reclaim their story. And so, hand in hand, they faced the gathering shadows, love blazing fiercely in their hearts, ready to shine even in the most sinister of nights. This was only the beginning. You need to subscribe now so you don't miss our next exclusive stories. Smash that like button now to feed the algorithm and keep the tales coming. I want to hear from you. Flood the comments section with your reactions and theories about this ending. Don't hold back. And remember, share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this conclusion. Don't wait even one more second to show your support.